Hey guys, I just got back from Ethics Day. I got to be a facilitator to lead some ethics discussions at a high school, and it was pretty interesting. It's really cool to see them first, or maybe not first time thinking about it, but many of them having one of their first times critically thinking about morality and talking about it out loud. It's really interesting. So they were presented this scenario. Those of you who may know of David Cash, he was popular for being called the Bad Samaritan. Him and his best friend found themselves at a casino at like 3 in the morning, and for some reason there was this 7-year-old girl there as well who went into the girls' bathroom where they were, and him and the best friend and the girl were playing around, and then it took a dark turn, and his best friend ends up pushing her into the bathroom stall and muffling her screams, and David Cash is aware of this. So he sees his best friend intentionally causing harm to a non-consenting person. He's in close enough proximity to stop it, and he has the capacity to stop it, but he does nothing. And to tell you the end of the story, David Cash leaves and the girl ends up getting raped and murdered. So people were saying that David Cash had an obligation, a moral obligation, to stop his best friend. And it was funny how a lot of them were able to talk about how they knew about this moral obligation. They were appealing to their conscience. One person even said he was born with a moral meter. I like the way he phrased that one. But they were completely unable to answer the question, where does this moral obligation come from? Which is kind of what I expected would happen, given that we talk about the moral argument on this channel all the time. Because the moral argument would argue that atheists and theists should be able to agree on how we come to know about morality, but that the atheist ultimately should be unable to explain what the foundation of objective morality could be. And that's pretty much what we saw here, was people were able to explain how they came to know about morality, but were completely unaware of how you could account for what makes an obligation, what's the foundation of that obligation. And the next thing I want to talk about was some really bad arguments for cultural relativism that came up. People kept saying that morality would change, but they would give really weird examples. So one example, the David Cash scenario, they agreed that it was immoral for David Cash to allow his friend to intentionally harm a non-consenting person when he's in close proximity and has the capacity to stop it. But they would say, if you change some of the variables, like make it two strangers fighting that you don't know if they're consenting or playing, and you don't know if you could even stop them because they look like they're stronger than you, that you might not have an obligation to interfere. But the problem is that that's literally comparing apples to oranges. If you change one morally relevant scenario, then you're asking an entirely new moral question. Never mind changing all the relevant moral moral factors. So yeah, if you want to show that morality changes, what you need to do is show how David Cash was morally wrong, but if you substitute someone else in his exact scenario, like say Phil Mason, you'd have to show that David Cash's action was morally wrong and Phil Mason doing the exact same thing was morally right. That would be an example of morality changing. And lastly, just want to give you guys a heads up. High schoolers do not make good jury members. They will convict you, so you do not want them on your jury. I'm just kidding, not all of them are like that, but a great majority of them made decisions I thought were pretty terrible. They were presented with this mock trial, and it pretty much boiled down to a woman accidentally killing one of her friends. And you could argue, you'd probably make a 50-50 case either way, that she either was callously disregarding human life or she wasn't callously disregarding human life. And there were good arguments on either side. But the whole trial boiled down to that one question. If she was being callously disregarding human life, then she'd be guilty, and if not, then she'd be innocent. But people were unanimously voting guilty on this, just completely ignoring reasonable doubt. So just know, if you see some high schoolers on your jury, then you're probably doomed. Alright, as always, test everything, hold on to the good.